salespeople to network and exchange ideas to improve their sales performance. I'm your co-host, Alex Abbott, and we have an interesting topic for you today. But I'm not going to steal his thunder. Over to you, Professor. Rob, to introduce our guest.
They've got their microphones open.
Okay. Yeah, I have. Welcome to SalesTV Live, a safe place for salespeople to network, exchange ideas, and put those ideas into practice to improve sales performance. My name's Alex Abbott. I'm your co-host today, and I'm joined by my co-host, the Professor. Sorry, Rob, take us away.
And recently come out with a use policy. As a sales leader, what does this do for your team?
Well, I think it opens up the use of something that, let's face it, we're all really experimenting with today in a way, right? But it drives productivity. It can drive productivity properly used, and there's so many areas of AI that are yet untapped, yet unused, and I think it's important that we start really looking into it and seeing how we drive more sales efficiency, but efficiency that leads to driving better and more robust experiences for our buyers as well, right? So isn't that really in the end what we're all trying to do?
Absolutely. So you've got access to AI for your sales team. In fact, for your entire organization, as I understand it. For organizations permitting the use of AI, what are some safeguards that you would suggest be implemented?
I think it's clear that the guidelines have to be, let's not add any confidential information at all. When we start using these tools, right, they're learning, right? So it's machine learning at its core. And what's happening is all the information we give it is information that it has to learn further. I think that has to be the number one, is let's be careful with the information that we start providing the models we're building.
Yeah.
Tim, if I can jump in there, when I think about this proliferation of AI and sales and marketing teams having this new toy at their fingertips, I can't help but think about the desire to automate and be so much more efficient than they are today, but at the risk of damaging business relationships, which is kind of the lifeblood of business growth.
AI doesn't have to be a toy or thought of as a toy. And I think that that's something that's important that we need to really be thinking about deliberately in sales. There are companies now that are beginning and growing up around providing AI-based technology and tools for sales teams specifically. Our Seismic, my company itself, has embraced AI as part of the solutions that we sell, and we began that process in 2015 with recommending content to sellers to use and sell in their pursuit. So I think that we can't think about it as a toy. We have to think about it as a business productivity tool, not only productivity, but drives. Again, I really want to stay focused on driving better buyer-seller engagements.
Yeah. I think that's ultimately what everybody wants. An experience that's better for the buyer, one that's more enjoyable for the buyer, but also more enjoyable for the seller.
Correct. And I think, that's what sales is at its core, right? Is doing that. And I think that, if we start looking at things like chat GPTs as toys, we're going to end up with groups and groups and groups, or maybe companies full of SDRs or BDRs who are, writing, emails or email sequences out of chat GPT and just firing them off. It's important to recognize that this is a tool that helps and not something that you can just set it and forget it and go. I think is really the other piece of it. It helps us do our jobs. It doesn't do our jobs for us.
I want to explore that paradigm a little bit more, because a lot of the information I see online regarding the tool that is AI is really about setting it up and going. And you're saying it's just the opposite of that. I'm reminded of the old Ronald Reagan line, trust but verify. Mm-hmm. So how do we ensure that our salespeople, for example, are taking the right steps, are ultimately serving our customers and even with?
I mean, it's like anything else. I don't know that we can ensure it. I think what we can do is teach what the right way to do things is, right? And when you use the tools and you do it the right way, I think that you drive better results. And I think that's what we have to keep doing. I don't know that we ensure anything, much like we can't ensure how people use their cell phones. We can't, you know what I'm saying? There's just, it's one of those, it's a tool. We count on people to use properly, and let's teach them how to do it.
Yeah. Rob, I don't know if you can still hear me.
Sure.
You can. Okay. I think we had a technical issue with some echo. I'm hoping that's gone now. But I can't help but think, Tim, as the technology gets better, as generative AI gets more intelligent, I'm starting to see software pop up that will write the emails for you. It will manage kind of the top end of the funnel, nurturing conversations that aren't human beings. They're AI assistants or virtual assistants with a view of handing off to the sales rep when they think the time is right. And they seem to be getting pretty good. But how does I can't help but think the buyer is thinking, wow, I'm building this relationship with this robot. They must feel some degree of some gut-wrenching feeling there.
I don't know that we've really proven that the buyer is building a relationship with the robot. I think what we can prove now is that robots can do more, or AI robots, right, can do more. But are we really building a relationship, or does that only exist between humans? And I think that's what we have to really evaluate and look at.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But Bob, thank you for Bob and Gopu. Thank you for helping us fix the technical problem there. Questions from the audience, please don't be shy in throwing some questions our way. But I apologize, Rob. I think you were going to say something.
Just building off what you were saying there, Tim. So what are some of the things that you believe still require a human touch?
I mean, I think that there are things that we've done it, look at we automated email sequences and those sort of things, but they still required a human touch. And we got it to the point where buyers actually knew they were in a sequence, right? And didn't respond to it. So I think that we just had to be careful and build, sales happens between human beings, right? It's one person interacting with another person, building a relationship, understanding the value of the mutual value of what that relationship is about, and then transacting something. That's how sales happens. I think we can make it more efficient with tools and AI and that sort of thing. I don't think we can replace it.
Yeah.
Tim,
I think that's
mentioned,
Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
You had mentioned training and again, that trust but verify and make sure they're trained in the right way. What kind of training, what things are you training? Take me to the blocking and tackling level if you have some insights there.
I mean, I think initially, I don't know that we all know how to train it, right? To do training properly. Let's face it, everybody's talking about this topic, but you're hard pressed to find an expert in this area, right? So I think we're all kind of feeling our way through. I think that my team is not a team of SDRs. My team handles sells to very large global organizations. So we're not worried so much about creating emails. What we're worried about is how do we learn more about accounts, build more robust account plans, and do those sort of things. And those are, so what is the fitness of purpose? I think is really, do I want to, use AI to create an email, to write an email, a generic email that's got, maybe some context, but to the CEO of a Fortune 500 organization and introduce my company when, it's irrelevant. The tool can help me do it, but it's not going to be relevant for what we're trying to sell to. So I think let's make sure that we're using the right things for what they're fit for the specific job we have. And that's the way we're using AI on my team right now.
Yeah. So we've got
like
a nice
that idea, fitness of purpose for the role.
We've got an interesting question here from Bob Britton. I'm just going to show it on the screen. Might need my glasses for this. Once buyers start using AI to the same extent sellers are, the entire top of the funnel will be automated. Sellers will only come in after the bots have done a banter test. What's your take on that, Tim?
I mean, wouldn't it be great, right? I mean, we there's so much. What do they say now, right? Depending on whose numbers you use, a buyer is somewhere between 60 and 80% of the way through the buying cycle by the time they ever talk to a salesperson at all. So I'm not sure that changes, right? How can, so when the buyer decides to talk to a salesperson, whether it's 60 or 80% or whatever's numbers you believe, it doesn't make any difference, right? I think that at that point, they engage with a salesperson because they need to engage with the salesperson. Now, are they going to get 90% of the way through the sales cycle now? I don't know if I buy that.
Automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we've got Tim in the green room, Rob. I don't know if now's a good idea to bring him on to get his point of view on
Absolutely.
That.
Hi,
Tim.
everybody.
Welcome. Do you want to give
you.
everyone a quick intro? I know many people know you already because you've been running SalesTV with us for a number of months now, but do you want to say a quick few words?
Yes, I'm Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I'm famous for writing the book Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers.
Welcome, Tim. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
the conversation. So what are your thoughts on this idea of AI and buyers and sellers managing their buying or selling process respectively using AI?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's fascinating that Tim is embracing the use of AI, especially around the salespeople. And I would be really interested in hearing about some of the case studies, because I think what tends to happen is we tend to focus on sending emails. And I agree with Tim that actually it's a business tool. I mean, I use AI now more than I do spreadsheets or PowerPoint. It's become, I use AI at least a day, every day, multiple times a day. And it's become fundamental in terms of the way that the business process is run. So I'm interested in some of the things that people are doing from a strategy perspective, from a sales perspective.
Yeah,
Tim.
I mean, I think that again, we're focused on my team. We're focused on really using it to learn more about our prospects than we are worrying about engaging with them at this point. As I said before, my company Seismic we use it, right? It's sales enablement solution that we use here that is loaded with a bunch of AI features that help us do our job to create better buyer experiences. Everything from, how do we help prep for meetings? What do we do during a meeting? Better follow up during meetings. If you start to look at all of these things, right? These things are real and they're being used today. We have a social selling solution that uses AI to help us write the comments that we may attach to an article that we're sharing, so we can build our own expertise or in social. So I just think that there's so many areas that this happens and that things are happening, and there are companies like Seismic that are going to come along with real solutions that we're using every single day and helping us do our job. And I think it's Chat GPT and some of those things that are available today that we're all using now will become less and less relevant for the salesperson as companies jump on the bandwagon and start filling in solutions.
I'm interested. Sorry, Tim.
I was going to say, and is there any way do you see in terms of optimizing pricing strategies or product recommendations or upselling or cross-selling and using AI to do that?
Absolutely, I think that's a fantastic use case. We talked before.
ChatGPT came up with a question, Tim. So
yeah. We talked before about just the idea of prepping for a meeting, right? So now imagine that you've got a solution from that's backed by AI that helps you gather the information for the persona or the person you're meeting with, because you're connected to your CRM system, so you know who the meeting's with, what market their company's in, the persona of that person, and now all of a sudden AI can gather information for me. It can now it can grab the right content that I need for the meeting. It can start assembling the right pitch deck if I need that for the meeting, and those sort of things. So there's a lot coming, right? Or there's a lot here already. And I think it's pretty exciting to start leveraging it.
What's your leadership think about this? Because have you got the board's agreement on it, and is it being used in other areas within Seismic?
It is actually, we have our own products that are very generative AI based, and we've been in this market for quite some time. So we're leveraging and we're moving forward, and our customers are excited about what we've been doing and what we are doing going forward as well.
Yeah.
Alex.
So on that point, I'm interested to learn, Tim, if you've started quantifying the value of the use of AI. Is it purely efficiency? Are you looking at revenue uplift?
I mean, I think it's going to, when we really get enough data, it's really gonna have impact in all places, right? Efficiency does drive to revenue uplift, because if I can save every salesperson on a sales team 4 or 5 hours a week, that's 4 or 5 hours a week they can sell, right? And selling is what drives revenue. So I do think that efficiency does drive revenue uplift, and we'll have very quickly, we'll have real data on that.
Tim Bridge, I heard you talking about some of the things that AI can help you do, as going into a meeting and helping with the presentation, the deck, and so on and so forth. But those are all things that I can do. What you've just described to me is something that does it more efficiently, but not a magic wand that does something that I cannot do. Help dispel the myth around what AI is, and maybe give us some insights as to the reality of what AI can help us do.
I mean, I think for me, right, AI it's a tool, and it's a tool like anything else, like your cell phone or your laptop or whatever, right? I mean, it's so it's a tool, and it can help us do our jobs just like your cell phone can. If you pick up the phone and call somebody, it can help you do your job, right? I just think that we need to be thinking of it as that, and not some magic silver bullet that's gonna change everything we do right now.
Yeah. Yeah. What about, are you starting to think about the boundaries you need to put in place and any ethical elements of the use of AI by your sales team, Tim?
I mean, that's always a consideration, is all of that. And again, we talked about it earlier, right? Even just privacy or private information or confidential information. There's so many aspects to that. I mean, I think every company's thinking about it. I think we're approaching things with a degree of caution, but let's move fast, let's go forward, and let's just be cautious and smart about what we do.
Yeah, because I think there's many sales leaders, salespeople listening to this today, thinking, well, I'd like to use AI to be more efficient, but I'm worried about me asking AI questions that are private and may breach confidentiality policies within the company. So I think, what you're talking about today, Tim, is extremely relevant for salespeople and sales leadership, and someone that appears to be leading the way and using AI at scale across your organization is fantastic to hear. Are there any other sort of things that you would mention as considerations for sales teams, sales leaders thinking of treading this path?
I mean, we got over the notion, generally speaking, not everywhere, but we got over the notion, when the gongs and the choruses of the world and conversational intelligence came into play, and we started recording all of our meetings, right? And didn't we have the same discussions at the start of that about what about privacy? Our customers would never do that, and now you can't hardly be on a meeting that isn't recorded anymore, right? So, and it hasn't been that long. So I think we're kind of, it's phases that we'll go through, and there'll be ways, just like there is when you join a meeting and it's recorded, that it gives you a warning. It says it's recorded. There'll be ways that'll come up that'll continue to protect people and privacy and confidential information and all of those things.
Yeah.
So Tim, I heard you say earlier that there are no experts yet. And I would agree with that. There are those that espouse to be experts, but I question their expertise. So that said, as a sales leader, how are you helping your team as a whole collaborate on best practices? How are you capturing that information? How are you disseminating that information so that everyone is learning from the things that are being learned?
I mean, we have our weekly meetings with the team. We talk about, here's something new I learned. I did this. We share best practices. It isn't formal, Rob, but it is something that, we're trying to all learn from each other rather than, be a team of just individuals that are running. We are trying to function as a team and share best practices and new things we learn and things like that.
I know I said I wouldn't bring up the Red Sox, but I absolutely thought of them when you said working together, and I was reminded of the '86 Red Sox, 25 players and 25 cabs. They just weren't getting along. So what I'm hearing you say, if I'm reading the tea leaves, is teamwork is still a critical element to success with AI, just as it would be with any other part of your sales team.
It is. And I think, that again, it's really important that somebody shares what they've learned, best practices. Here's what I did. Here's how I did it. Here's what I got out of that. And people build on that, on others learning, right? I did what you did plus this, and look what I got. And while it doesn't necessarily create experts, it does help everybody. It does level up everybody's game for sure.
We have a Sox fan in the audience. Bob Britton.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So Tim, in a way, you're building the playbook as you go along. There isn't something that a new starter comes along and you say, this is what you've got to do with AI. In effect, you're giving people you've empowered the team to go away and investigate it and then come back to you and share what they've learned.
Correct. And, it may not work for everybody, right? And we're not forcing anybody to do anything. It may not work for everybody, and they may choose to do things the way they do things, right? So I think what we have been able to prove is that we can make people more efficient.
Now, Bob, can you give us a parallel when CRMs became the norm, became the rage in sales? Are we jumping on AI at a rate as rapidly as something like a tool that is now just commonplace, or is this unseen? In your opinion, your experience?
No, I actually think we've seen all of this before. I think you can go back to when the version 1 of the iPhone came out, right? And I was not one of the people that waited in line for 2 days outside the Apple Store to get version 1 because I didn't need an iPhone at the time, right? I couldn't imagine that I had this dire need to surf the web on my phone, right? So, it changed. So I think we've seen this change happen a lot, whether it be CRM or we talked about conversational intelligence solutions before. We've seen it, it's happened. It's happened before. This isn't new. And I don't think the pace of this is going to be necessarily any faster or any slower than anything else we've seen.
Yeah, I'd love to bring Adam on in a minute because I'm sure he has a view on everything we're talking about. But before we do, I just want to bring up Bob Britton's comment here about AI doing AI to be better at their jobs themselves, but there could be some other tasks that can be completely replaced by AI.
I think it's like everything else. There will be tasks that are completely replaced by AI, but I think that the thing that I heard somebody say, and I can't remember where I was, but I heard somebody say, don't be afraid about AI taking your job. Be afraid of a person using AI taking your job.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Bob also goes on to say, Bob, this is brilliant. Thank you for your engagement today, by the way. Bob Britton also goes on to say, AI adoption seems to be faster than CRM adoption. Would you agree with that? I mean, if we look at ChatGPT and them getting, 100 million users within a very short space of time. But
CRM was never a tool for salespeople. It was a tool. It's designed to be a tool for sales managers to report, monitor, have, roll up forecasts, all of the other things, right? It wasn't designed to be a productivity tool for salespeople. In fact, CRM when it first came out was a tool that kind of slowed salespeople down. You got to capture your notes. You got to do this. You got to do that. So
sales prevention tool. I mean,
it was when it first came out. But
how many salespeople out there hated updating the CRM system?
And still to this day, right, they do. So, is that a task maybe AI takes over, is updating CRM? It's possible, right? It's they're listening to my meetings now. We understand what content we're saying. We can now generate a transcript from the meeting that, tells us what to follow. Can it update CRM as well? So I don't have to keep doing that. And then give me a sense for, more scientifically where it's at, where a deal's at in the pipeline stages. Yeah. I think all of those things are realistic.
I mean, scary thoughts, no? Tim, Rob, is this where we bring Adam in? Should we get Adam's view on this? Mr. Gray, welcome.
Well, hello. How lovely it is to see you all. So yes, I've been listening to the conversation, obviously, and I'm simultaneously thrilled and horrified at the way this is panning out. So you, Tim Bridge, you said that AI incredibly powerful for prepping for meetings, to identify, to do that background research so that when you go into the meeting, you don't tread on any landmines, because the ability to sift through the great swathes of content that is out there and put it into some meaningful sense that I can absorb, AI can do that in a way that humans never could. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I see that adds enormous value. The challenge is not that there isn't any information out there. The challenge is that there is too much information out there, and trying to sift that down to a manageable amount is the issue. It's always the issue for us as individuals. My concern is that AI will deliver in exactly the same way that email delivered this, which is that, yes, email enables you to target absolutely the people you want to speak to in real time and have a conversation with those people and deliver it instantly with zero delivery cost to those people. And the smart people micro niched that and made sure that they were having a conversation with you at this very moment. And other people thought, well, there's no delivery cost for this. So rather than sending out 10 targeted, I'll send out 100 less targeted, or 1,000 even less targeted, or 1 million not targeted at all. And I think that one of the challenges that we have with AI is that if you use it as you described, Tim, as a way of sifting that inbound information, fantastic. If you use it as a way to create more pseudo-personalized outbound information, you're simply adding to the problem that is already there. And I think that the challenge is not there is no content for me to consume. The challenge is that there is no context. So the reason that I'm going to read your post, Tim, is because I know you and I like you. Not because it's a good post, because I only know it's a good post when I've read it. I'm not going to read it because you're just another person telling me you've got the solution. And I think therein lies the problem. And how you're describing the use of AI, I think, is beautiful. But so many things are beautiful in theory, but in practice, perhaps not so.
We're back to, Adam, we're back to people actually interacting with people, right? And using the tools to aid us rather than using the tools to do it.
And I think that that's the key thing, isn't it? We in another show that we do, we had a conversation with somebody that is a professor of psychology, and she said that the people are hardwired to be lazy. Why would you take a lot of effort to do something if you can do it with less effort? And that's why some of these tools that automate and make things on the face of it easier seem like a real boon. Oh, I can do 100 of these tasks rather than 10 of these tasks. And I think the challenge is that what everybody wants is a constant stream of high quality leads coming into their inbox every single hour. The reality is that life doesn't work that way. In order for us to have any sort of relationship, I have to build a relationship with you. And the relationship isn't based on the fact that I've got a solution that helps you. The relationship's based on the fact that we like each other. And I think when we take that out of the equation, we are going into a very difficult place where we further complicate the sheer mountain of content that we have to wade through.
Yeah, and I think I can, again, it's how do we do that? How do we personalize the interaction, not by putting your name on top of an email, right? But how do we personalize the interaction? So what we're talking about is what you care about, not what I care about.
Absolutely.
But AI doesn't do that.
No. But people using AI can do it very powerfully.
Yes.
But are we not at risk of then all being as efficient as each other?
Yes. If everybody's got the tool, Alex, then everyone's got the power. So there isn't actually any competitive advantage.
Yeah.
As Tim was saying earlier on, he said everyone's now got Gong. Well, Gong doesn't give you a competitive advantage because everybody's got it.
Yeah. Like best practices.
Like best practices,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Along those lines, then, Tim Bridge, would you say that a team not incorporating AI is at a competitive disadvantage at this stage? And if not, how soon do you think that will become the case?
I mean, I think we're fast approaching that where, I think the economy's driving us to that too, right? It's harder and harder and harder to get attention of people and to extract money for value from companies. And so I think, partly the economy's driving us to become better at building relationships that are richer with our buyers, that provide value, and it's clear. So I think that we're being driven into that very quickly. And in my experience, I think most companies are either talking about it or doing something about it.
So back to AI for sales teams. Somebody that is leading a sales team right now in an organization that has banned the use of AI, how would you suggest, first of all, they proceed to get that taken care of? Who would they speak with? And then talk to us a little bit about the first steps that you would put in place for the team themselves. So how do we talk to those above us that are prohibiting it? And then how do we support those that are reporting into us?
I mean, I think the reason we prohibit things or that we don't do things is because we're afraid, right? So I think that the first thing that we have to do is figure out or ask the question, what is it we're afraid of? And let's address that, the fear, right? Because, fear's a motivator and it's also a demotivator, right? So, fear of falling behind says, hey, let's adopt it. But, fear of what could happen can also slow it down. So let's get out front of it and address it. What are we afraid of? And for individuals who are don't have the company policies, I think try it, see what it does for you, investigate it. It isn't as easy as just as a Google search, right? Or typing in a question in a search bar. You need to, there's the prompts, and what are the right prompts, and how do you ask it the right questions, and do those things. It's something you have to experiment with, play with it. Don't be afraid.
Have you seen any of your sales team or teams excelling in the use of AI to the point where they're putting their feet up?
I mean, no. What a great life, right? I mean, I think that's the dream, right? It was Adam said, inherently we're all a little bit lazy. Sure, that's our dream. How do we make all this happen automatically and put our feet up? No, I think we're working. I think it's pushing people to work harder.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes back to hiring then as well, in terms of hiring the right talent with the right motivations.
Right.
Oh, we've lost your audio, Rob.
No.
You're on mute, Rob.
I was coughing, so I had muted it and didn't unmute. Sorry about that. So, Tim Bridge, just wrapping us up then, how would you suggest a leader like yourself proceed? What would you suggest is the first thing they do with their team when it comes to incorporating AI into the workplace, into your workflow?
mean, assuming you have nothing today as a company that brings AI in, and there's so many solutions that sales teams are using today that bring AI in. I mean, Salesforce has made, just an enormous amount of announcements around AI and what they're doing just within their CRM. So, I mean, assuming that you have nothing today, and you want to get started with something, pick a small task and start. Like I said, on my team, the task we picked is how do we make ourselves more efficient at generating an account plan? And we've been able to succeed at that. Pick a small task and just jump in and do it.
I like that. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience, Alex?
So the first question I asked ChatGPT was I went through all the different people in my family and asked ChatGPT what to buy them for Christmas.
And it didn't know, did it?
It did. It was spot on, but unfortunately, it picked up. It suggested all the things that I've bought so far.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually anything. It didn't suggest anything new. But I went through the whole of my family. I've got a great niece and nephew. One's 9 and one's 12, and they're impossible to buy for. But it did suggest things, but it was the Lego and all those usual things,
Yeah. So here's one from Bob before we come back to Christmas presents, Tim. Are you finding a generational difference in AI adoption, Gen Z versus boomers, for example? Thank you, Bob.
I'm not right now. I mean, it seems pretty evident that it's beneficial all the way around, and I'm not really seeing much of a difference in generational.
Yeah, there's this assumption, isn't there, that Gen Z are digital first, but I think in reality they might be with their friendship groups, but put them in a business environment and it's very different.
Right. And I guess look at all of us on this call, right? What we are is, how do we make our jobs easier first, right? So different motivation, but I don't think it's changing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So do we go back to Christmas presents or
Look at the clock. I think we're running over.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Rob, you asked Tim a great question from a sales leadership perspective, but Tim Bridge, you must have some top tips or tricks that you can share for salespeople that perhaps don't have a sales leader that are leaning into AI. What advice would you give them?
I would say get on, play, experiment, ask it about Christmas gifts, ask it about, it's fine. The first thing I ever typed in was my wife wanted to do some, a goofy diet. And I said, so let's type into ChatGPT, build a 5-day meal plan that restricts this and this and this, right? Brilliant. So play with it, and it works. And forget about being a salesperson or how you're going to use it in your day-to-day job. Use it in your life too, and get comfortable with it. It's kind of cool, actually.
Very cool. And on that note, then, Adam, Tim, or Rob, give us some. We've promised practical use cases salespeople can take away to improve their sales performance. It doesn't have to improve their sales performance. Mind you, diet is important to improve your sales performance. Any other tips from you guys?
Well, in fact, the best tip that I can give is to actually copy what Tim did, which was where he was doing a podcast, and he said, I don't know anything about this. So he asked ChatGPT to write him some questions, which meant that he could ask informed questions about that topic. That I forget what the topic was now, but it's quite recent.
Net Promoter Score, NPS.
That's right. And the questions that you read out to us were just devastatingly good, that stimulated a fantastic conversation. And I think that one of the strengths of this is that, and further to your point, Tim Bridge, about the prompts being important, one of the key benefits of this is that if you don't know where to start, it can help you to get started with a topic, and that's incredibly powerful. I think that the challenge that we have when we're trying to create the way we're going to position something in front of a prospect is that by nature of the fact that you work in your particular industry, you know everything about your product and the value that it brings and what its key benefits are. The buyer doesn't know any of those things because they haven't bought your product yet. Now, the problem here is that they are not asking the questions that you're seeking to answer. So the idea that AI can do that top of funnel stuff, it can't, because they're asking the wrong questions. So this idea that we can learn from a different perspective to ourselves and use that as a starting point can be a very powerful thing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
My other favourite, Alex, was I got ChatGPT to write sarcastic replies to spam emails, and I got a big and for a week that made me laugh. After a week, it actually came up and it said a comment saying this isn't actually a really good idea.
Yeah. Brilliant. Look, I'd love to carry on with the ideas and the practical use cases, but I do want to get Swarab Pandit's comment up before we go, because this is about the audience and not just about us. It's a great question. I don't think we're going to have time to answer it today, Swarab, but I'm going to put it out there for next time. Account plan, yes, for an enterprise or mid-size account plan, but what are the use cases on SMB or lower mid-market customers to drive AI-related efficiencies? Tim, we are running out of time, but if you aren't a member of our LinkedIn group, please join, as I would recommend anyone listening joining. If you have a view on that particular question, please share it in our group for our audience. And with that, I think it's, thank you to the audience. Thank you, co-hosts and Tim Bridge, for joining us. It's been very insightful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there's another episode of Sales TV. We look forward to seeing you next time. Enjoy the rest of your week, folks.
Great. We'll see you.